Building and Operating Committee meeting of June 25th, 2020.
Director Belforte. Absent Director Cochran.
Here.
Present Director Fredericks.
Here.
Present Director Garbarino.
Here.
Present Director Rabbit.
Here.
Present Vice Chair Moylan.
Here.
All right, Vice Chair Moylan. Chair Terrio.
I can't match John's enthusiasm, but I'm here too.
Okay, thank you. And President Parr.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and I believe Director Belforte joined us.
Yes, I did.
All right, thank you, Director Belforte.
And Director Sobel. Dick Roswell's here too. And
That's
Jim
right. We have
Maston.
Director Maston. Director Hill as well is on the line. So you
I'm here.
are a committee of the whole. I'm going to roll call the staff on the line.
Thank you.
General Manager Dennis Mulligan.
Present.
Auditor Controller Joe Wire.
Yes.
Thank you. Chief Engineer Ava Bauer.
Here.
Thank you. Attorney Kim Manolius.
I'm here.
Thank you. DGM of the Bridge Division Steve Miller. Are you on the line?
I'm on the line. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you. DGM of the Bus Division Mona Babauta. Are you on the line?
Yes, present.
Thank you. And DGM of the Ferry Division Jim Swindler. Are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
There we go. And finally, we have DGM of the A&D Division. Kelly Hop, are you here?
Present.
Thank you. All right. That accounts for all their staff.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. This is an official announcement. I would like to remind everyone to mute their phones until after staff presentation, and we open up for director discussion. After staff's presentation, I will be asking for any comments and or questions on the item. If there are questions, the Secretary will call on you accordingly. After the discussion portion, we will ask for any public comment before taking the roll call vote. Each page of the meeting packet is numbered on the bottom right-hand corner for ease of following along. Secretary, please proceed with the agenda.
Thank you, Chair Terrio. Item number 3 on the agenda is to approve actions relative to the execution of professional services agreement number 2019 FT058, Larkspur Ferry Service and Parking Expansion Environmental Clearance and Preliminary Design Study with Jacob Engineering Group. The staff report starts on page 3, and we have DGM Kelly Hopper on the line to present this report. Ms. Hopper, go ahead.
Good morning and thank you. The item we're bringing to you today is to a recommendation to award a consultant contract to Jacobs Engineering Group to conduct an environmental analysis, screening, and preliminary design for an increased number of Larkspur ferry trips as well as an expansion of the parking lot for customers. There are 3 action items that is in here is to award the execution of the contract to Jacobs Engineering Group for an amount not to exceed $2.5 million, as well as establishing a contingency of approximately $251,000, and then finally to award a budget increase in the amount of $1,898,426, which we will also be taking to the Finance Committee following this meeting today. As a little bit of background, as most of us know, the Larkspur Ferry Terminal service has been the district's single most heavily used transit route. This popularity has been sustained, and even back as far as May 2013, staff brought in a strategic vision for the Larkspur Ferry service, and we addressed the landside capacity issues as well as service needs that we may see in the future. Since that time, prior to COVID, of course, this route has operated at a very high level of peak service, and we are regularly seeing peak overloads in the mornings. That is very common. However, because our parking lots are already at capacity during the peak time, there's little opportunity for us to encourage the midday ridership or the non-traditional work schedules that folks are having, as well as leisurely travel. So we anticipate that the COVID after COVID-19 that the ridership on this service will resume. Staff issued a request for proposal at the end of October of 2019 for an environmental analysis study. 2 firms submitted their proposals, Jacobs Engineering and Environmental Services Associates. And through a rigorous selection process, the selection committee ranked Jacobs as the highest, as they believed it offered the best package of superior technical analysis capabilities, as well as a really outstanding outreach and community involvement component that they proposed in their package. This study will take about 2 years to complete for the study and the preliminary engineering. We acknowledge that there will be some future analysis that we'll have to bring forward regarding parking expansion concepts, final designs, as well as any funding for parking improvements or construction that will come at a later date. At this time, even in light of the COVID situation, staff is recommending proceeding due to the length of this study, that it will be 2 years, in anticipation that we will be back from the pre-COVID ridership and demand at the conclusion of this study. Initially, the study was estimated to cost $1.25 million. However, due to a complex level of analysis, in that we now are going to run a parallel environmental analysis for both the ferry crossings as well with a very detailed wake analysis that's going to be contemplated in the study, as well as doing the parking demand, design and engineering all at one time. As a result, the budget needs to increase to approximately $3.15 million. And staff makes that recommendation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hopper. I may have a question depending on what comes out of the rest of the committee, but prior to mine, I'll ask, are there any questions on this item?
Yes, I have a question. Gina Belforte.
And I have a question also.
And I have a question, Dick Glaswell.
Okay, Madam Secretary.
All right, we're going to start with Director Belforte.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Kelly, I'm just wondering, when you say the parking that you envision, are you thinking multi-structure, multi-story, or just single-story?
Multi-story. Yeah, multi-story. We envision that the ferry capacity is limited by landside, and people get there a lot of different ways, but some of our customers choose to drive, and if we don't accommodate them, they'll just drive into San Francisco. So we think it's prudent to look at a multi-story parking expansion on some of the land we own in that area.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director Belfort. Director Cochran.
Yes, I'm a little curious. Under the selection process, you indicated that you sent out 285 proposals and you only received 2 bids back. Is that correct?
That is correct. We only received 2 back. I did not note that we sent out 285. Yes, you're right. We did send out, yes, we sent out 285. I was going
to offer in October, the market for architectural engineering and environmental services was radically different than today. You may recall that we were struggling hiring people in engineering classifications at that time, and there was basically full employment, and so firms were quite busy. And so based on how busy the work was at that time, we did not see a lot of response. But both firms that responded are quite good.
Well, yeah, no, I don't question that, but it just kind of bothers me. We, we get less than 1% or 0.75% return or offers to do something. And would it be prudent to maybe redo it? I don't know what the work is out there right now, if it's good, bad, or still very much in need.
One of the other factors is this is actually a pretty small procurement for the types of firms that do this. It's not a huge expansion where you're going to have $20 million of environmental studies. And so I think the size of it also affected the response that we got. When we say we send it out electronically, so there's not cost associated with that. And we sent it broadly so that small business enterprises, disadvantaged business enterprises, veteran businesses, and the whole community is aware of the opportunity. But then, the market evaluates it and folks look at it, and it's small and complicated. And so I think that affected the level of response that we got.
Might I ask, is there a split between the expansion of the clearance for more trips across the bay and the design of the study? Was there a split in there? Was it $1 million for the study and $2 million for the structure, or what? Or is there any division?
There's a detailed cost breakdown. Some of the items are clearly one or the others.
Right.
Like the traffic, the traffic analysis is tied to the parking. The conceptual design of the parking is tied to the parking. But some items like public outreach blend both together. And so there's not a hard breakdown, but if you want, we can send you the cost breakdown that we have if that's of interest to you.
But no, I'm just curious because we've talked about the crossing issue now for probably 6 years, 7 years, and now we're finally getting to it. I'm happy for that. I'm just kind of curious, what is that? Is if we just did the crossing issue, is that $1 million or is it $2 million?
Well, the issue, as Jim Swindler is fond of saying, is the ferry business is all about the land side. If people can't get to your ferry facility, you won't have the opportunity to grow ridership. So once the parking lot fills up, the boats that we run after that are empty. And so to add service in the absence of addressing the fact that a lot of our customers choose to drive, I think would be a short-sighted approach to the project.
Okay, well, thank you.
Michael, could I make
Thank
a comment?
you.
This is Bert.
Yeah.
We have Director Grosville. Yes. Thank you. Director Grosville is next. Director Hill, you'll be after Director Grosville.
I actually would like to see the breakdown that Jerry, you mentioned you could provide to Jerry. I would be curious of what that breakdown is. My question is, both of these issues are pretty high priorities. Why does it have to take 2 years to do this study?
It's called CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act of 1970. It requires that we look at an array of alternatives and that we do detailed studies of the things that society says are important. So one of the big tasks will be to do a wake analysis of the vessels. So you'll have to have vessels actually go up and down the channel. They'll have to do measurements in the channel. They'll have to then run that through computer models that looks at how the waves and wakes from those boats cause erosion at nearby sensitive habitat. There's wetlands nearby that are habitat for endangered species. Then there's also a requirement for public outreach and public comment. So we would start with scoping meetings where we engage the public. We would do a notice of preparation pursuant to environmental law. We'll be complying with also both state and federal environmental law. Then we will develop a set of alternatives. Then we'll get the various resource agencies to sign off on those alternatives. And then we'll commence the technical studies like wake analysis, traffic analysis. We'll look at different modes that people will use to get to the facility. Then we'll take all that data and prepare a draft environmental document. And then we'll take that document and publicize it. Then we'll have public outreach and solicit feedback and comments on that environmental process. Then I anticipate we'll get a lot of comments. We'll have to then prepare responses to all those comments, revise studies based on what we hear, do additional work, and then prepare a final document that would then go to the board for adoption, and then also go to the Federal Transit Administration for adoption. In CEQA and the federal counterpart NEPA, the federal environmental law, entail a lot of process, and there's timelines associated with that. So 2 years is actually quick. I know that may sound frustrating, but a transit expansion today is not exempt from state and federal environmental laws, unfortunately.
You wore me out with that explanation. Thank you. But I guess the other question is, does that mean the parking study will be able to get done quicker?
No, the parking study will be done concurrently. It'll be all done together. And the parking study is no faster because it's tied to developing architectural renderings, developing different layouts, and then doing the requisite traffic analysis to see how it impacts nearby intersections. if there's more vehicles coming to the facility. And it has to go through the same process with the public. And I think that part of the process will get a lot of comments. Some people, our customers, will advocate very strongly for it, and others may perhaps advocate that we take money that could be used for parking structure and use it for enhancing other modes of getting people to the Larkspur Ferry Terminal. And so we'll have to navigate that process and those conversations with the public as part of this project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Croswell. The next person is Director Hill.
Yes, I was going to keep quiet on this one, but Dennis actually answered or commented on it relative to CEQA. I think CEQA is going to be a pretty big deal if we're dealing with a climate emergency. And I think you're going to be looking at a lot of alternatives to this. So just a comment more. But Dennis, I'm glad you made those comments relative to CEQA. Thank you.
Chair Theriault, I'll bring it back to you. That was the last person that had a comment. So I think you were next.
Okay, and a couple of my questions are not so much questions as lamentations. One actually ties into what Director Hill was just saying and what Mr. Mulligan had said just before. And that is that somehow parking, unfortunately, has become the primary alternative for accessing the ferry. And I would personally have hoped that other alternatives got a stronger look. But I understand the realities, unfortunately, of the situation as it currently stands. The other lamentation is that elsewhere in the Bay Area where we have had a good nexus of transit, such as we have now developed here with the SMART train and with the ferry, and one that one hopes improves and that SMART survives to help it improve. We have heard calls for housing above multi-story parking where multi-story parking occurs. I understand that is a challenge politically anywhere, and perhaps specifically in Marin. But I am going to lament that we are not considering that as an alternative as well. Then I do a question, and that is that given what we have heard about the market for a firm to do this work in October versus the market now, might we in fact be better served to pull the proposal back and put it out again in the current market? And that's my question.
I don't think we would. It is still a small procurement, and the firms that submitted were both really high quality, and we hire on the basis of quality and qualifications. And I don't think we'll see a more qualified team submitted if we were to put it out again. We would just see more teams. But we were pleased with both firms in terms of what they put forward. And it was a decision that was difficult to staff wade over. But I think we might have more firms, but I don't think we'd see better qualified teams.
Yeah, and I certainly know of Jacob's reputation. So all right. Are there any other questions on this item? Hearing none, this concludes the discussion of the board on the item. Before we take a vote, is anyone from the public there to speak on it?
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair Theriault. We're going to pull the public line. We have no speakers from the public that wish to talk on this item.
Thank you. So there being no speakers, Vice Chair Moylan, can I hear your enthusiasm in moving this item?
Yes, I'd like to move this item. And
thank you.
But
thank
okay,
you.
Sorry.
Okay. And Director Rabbit, can we have your second?
I second that.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you. So we have a first motion by Director Moylan and a second by Director Rabbit. So calling the roll call, Director Arnold, are you on the line? Absent. Director Belforte?
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer? Absent. Director Frederick?
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino?
Yes.
Yes. Director Grosboll?
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez? Absent. Director Hill?
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston?
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan?
Yes.
Yes. Director Rabbit?
Yes.
Yes. Director Sears? Absent. Director Sobel?
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee? Absent. Second Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Terrio?
With some lamentation still, yes.
Yes. And President Parr?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes 12-0.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The next item on the agenda, please.
Next item on the agenda is item number 4, a status report from board appointees on the Sonoma-Marin Area Rail Transit Board. Staff report with a link to the SMART website is on page 7 of your packet. District appointees to the SMART board are both on the line to provide their report. President Parr, you can begin.
Yes, thank you. Director Garbarino will give the report today.
Thank you, Barbara. First of all, I'd like to mention that ridership has been steadily increasing. In my rough calculations, it's been about 5% each time we get a report from Farhad, so we get them weekly. As more businesses continue to open, naturally, we're going to see ridership increasing and return. Excuse me. At our last meeting as well, in a joint public-private partnership, SMART, the County of Sonoma, City of Santa Rosa, and affordable housing developer MidPen applied for a grant. The proposal was granted the highest ranking in the entire state, and they received $27.8 million, which will gladly provide for 75 affordable housing units in Roseland, in Santa Rosa. SMART gets to build a gap closure pathway, and the City of Santa Rosa gets funds for traffic signal improvements. In addition, we approved a resolution reestablishing a second Petaluma station at Corona Road and North McDowell Boulevard in Petaluma. We authorized the use of $8 million from the proceeds of the sale of the downtown SMART property on the design and construction of that second station. Also, at our last week's meeting, we voted unanimously for that action to sell the property in the downtown and fund the development of the second station. The developer, Lomas Partners, will close escrow on that in November of 2020. And Petaluma, I'm happy to say, has a very strong ridership market for SMART. And then finally, we approved the resolutions to adopt the revised fiscal year 2019-20 budget and the fiscal year 2020-21 budget. Naturally, we will read our assumptions in a few months, and as like the Golden Gate Bridge District, this is a moving target with the public giving us their good advice regularly. And if I may, I'd like to just mention a personal comment. We talked earlier about our experiences here with COVID, and I just wanted to mention that I am happy to share what we learned with anyone. We've had extensive visits by the county health officers, and this COVID outbreak was community-based. I'm not saying that in our defense. What I'm saying is I truly appreciate what Dennis sends out in the way of his comments to the staff and the due diligence that he infuses in those messages, the use of safeguards, PPEs. The community has gotten relaxed. So anyway, thank you for that allowing me that personal comment, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Director Garbarino?
If I may, through the chair.
Anyone else? Yes.
I'd just like to say that we had some news this week, which I think is a good thing. Lomas is they don't actually develop the property; they get the approvals and then flip it. And so, Corona, I got word that a developer from the North Bay area has an offer that's accepted and has the property under contract, and they're looking to make that 110 units at Corona 100% affordable. So that's a great thing for Petaluma. It helps with the upcoming big RENA numbers that were just released, and it actually provides a much-needed deed restricted affordable housing at that site. It may also include some redesign, which I think the city would appreciate, because I know that there was a little controversy over what the design was shaping up to be. So I think that's a good thing going forward. And I might add, this is the same developer who was part of, while not Mid-Penn, a similar grant in the Santa Rosa area, and they're looking to apply for the same 2 grants here in Petaluma. And SMART actually received $5.25 million from that grant. The developer $12.5 million. The city of Santa Rosa, I think, about $1.5 million for traffic signals. It was very lucrative, and if we could repeat that here in Petaluma, that would be a great thing. We have an additional allotment for housing because of the fires that occurred, and I think it's good timing going forward. So I just thought I'd add that because it's important for SMART's ridership and important for the city of Petaluma and for housing in the North Bay.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Director Rabbit. That's all good news. Anyone else have anything to add on the SMART report? Then that concludes discussion on item number 4. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item?
We're going to pull the public line in just a second. So give me hang on one second. We have no speakers on this item.
Thank you. So item number 5 then is the status report on engineering projects. The report begins on page 9. Ms. Bauer-Furbush will present the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my written report is before you, but I would like to take a few minutes to address the issue that in recent weeks many people contacted the district about new sounds emanating from the Golden Gate Bridge during high winds, and specifically that unusual event that happened on June 5th. Some people expressed curiosity about the source of the sound, and some expressed the displeasure with this new phenomenon and demanded that the district take steps to prevent or reduce the sounds. We recognize that the bridge is cherished by the Bay Area community, and we take community feedback very seriously. We observe that the sound is the result of sustained high winds coming from the northwest and passing at a specific angle through the recently installed new west sidewalk bridge railing. This new railing is part of the bridge wind retrofit project. The wind retrofit is necessary to ensure that the structural integrity of the bridge is not jeopardized during extreme sustained westerly winds of up to 100 miles an hour. The construction of the wind retrofit is especially important given the risk of increasing severe weather events due to climate change. The project is also essential for the completion of the suicide deterrent system, which will install netting along the full length of both sides of the bridge and further increasing wind resistance. The wind retrofit involves the replacement of existing bridge railing on the west sidewalk between the 2 main towers with new railing that has thin vertical plate pickets designed to allow more air to flow through them. The project also includes the installation of a wind fairing just below the sidewalk level on the outside of the bridge. Approximately 75% of the new railing and 10% of the new wind fairing has been installed to date. And I need to add that as we increase the installation of the new railing, we have observed that the sound magnified. The original railing was designed with thick vertical pickets that obstruct passage of wind. This effect is particularly strong on the 4,200 feet long main span, which is suspended between the two towers. The district engaged experts in aerodynamics to conduct multiple wind tunnel tests of a scale model of the bridge under high winds. These tests reveal how the bridge may drag during high wind events after the suicide deterrent system is complete. The potential damaging consequences of leaving the original bridge railing in place are illustrated most vividly by the infamous collapse of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. The test also provided information on the level of transparency of the railing necessary to avoid the wind-caused damage to the bridge. The new bridge railing design was selected to achieve the dual goals of improved bridge aerodynamics and architectural harmony with our cherry structure. Because the model used in the wind tunnel test was 1:20 scale model of the main span and was constructed of aluminum and plastic materials, not of steel as the bridge is, there were no indications that the new bridge railing would create the type and level of sound we experienced on June 5th. There were predictions that the wind retrofit may cause some new sounds on the bridge simply because more air is allowed to pass over the roadway. We have observed that there is a correlation between speed and direction of the wind and the intensity of new sounds the bridge emanates. The district's weather station, which is located on the suspension bridge main span, is constantly recording wind speeds and directions. We have reached out to a consultant with expertise in aerodynamics and acoustics. We will retain this consultant to analyze the causes of the sound and to evaluate potential mitigation measures. As the first step, in July, the consultant will conduct sound camera measurements at the bridge. This will allow us to determine which elements of the bridge are engaged and what level of sound is generated at various wind speeds and directions. As a second step, the consultant will perform wind tunnel tests of the full-scale model of the railing and fairing and other elements identified by the sound camera to explore how the resonance of these elements can be interrupted. So with this, I am happy to answer any questions the committee may have for me.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer-Furbush. Do any of the members of the board have questions for Ms. Bauer-Furbush on the report?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, anyone else?
This is Bert. I just have a quick comment.
All right, Madam Secretary, would you sort through that, please?
Sure. Director Sobel, that was you first. Why
Yes.
don't you go ahead.
Yes, a quick question. Ava, you said that the wind fairing component has been installed up to, I guess, what, 10% of that. Are you able to isolate anywhere along that, along the railing yet where the sound may be emanating from? Is it coming more from where, say, we've installed the wind fairing component, or is it, does it seem to be like across the, you know, the span, the 75% we've installed, or we don't know?
We're getting conflicting reports. I posed that question to people on the bridge, and some people said that the sound is louder at the location when the fairing is in place, and some say, no, it's in the locations we do not have fairing yet. So that's why it's so important to have the sound camera measurements taken, because then we can truly identify which elements resonate in the high wind.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sobel. Director Hill, you're next.
Yeah, I just commented to a few people about it, that is there a difference between the foghorns in the morning? Are we just not used to them? And we might get used to them, with time too, because these things do happen. But those foghorns are pretty loud. I can hear them from my house.
If I could offer one thing on the foghorns, it may surprise some of you, but we have to test them periodically. And when we test them on a clear day, we get calls from the public complaining. So I just wanted to share that with you. And also sometimes the fog is down low blocking the channel, but it's not up to the roadway level. The foghorns come on because the purpose of the foghorns is to provide an aid to navigation. And we also get complaints when that happens from a few people. So I just thought I'd add that to the conversation.
Are there any other directors wishing to comment or ask questions on this item?
Yeah, this is David Rabbit. I just have we narrowed down the speed at which wind has to hit in order for the sound to start emanating? How rare will this be in the future, I guess, is my question. It was very windy those days that it made the news, but I'm hoping that's relatively rare around here. I'm not sure. Do we have any data on that?
If I may, so I instructed my staff, and they also spoke with the contractors people to make the observations and take notes. So we're keeping a log of the whenever somebody can identify the sound, and of course this is not very scientific because we only can identify the low, medium, or high level of sound. But still, we're keeping the log and we're comparing to the recording speeds and directions of wind because we're trying to identify a pattern. Right now, what we see since June 5th, we have one day where we have the so-called medium level of sound. This was on June 15th. We are struggling with observations on weekends, but we're searching for some help with this. So, and interestingly enough, it happens when the wind is from the northwest direction rather than from the southwest. So it's not, right now with these very limited observations, we don't see symmetry. But we also have a few days with the low level of sound that could be heard on the bridge. We're keeping log of this, and all of this will be taken into consideration when we conduct the wind tunnel test. Right now, it's very difficult to predict. We want to bring the consultant ASAP because, as you know, June and July tend to be heavy, high wind months at the bridge. So we hope that maybe we can identify what's going on with the sound camera, and then we have to evaluate, do we have to take some measures that basically dump this sound, or is it possible just to live with the situation where every so often when the wind is really strong, the event of June 5th may be repeated. I spoke with these experts, before we engage them to do wind study for the suicide deterrent, and they have a very impressive lab. They're doing the services internationally. And, you know, they were surprised by the event themselves. But they say that we may identify measures that are not expensive and may be really helpful in dumping the measures. But we are at the point we really don't know, so all of this is just speculation.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer-Furbush. Do any other directors have questions or comments? Then, Madam Secretary, let's move along to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment either on this item or more generally?
I'm going to pull the public line one more time. Hang on one second. We have no speakers.
Thank you. So that brings us to the close of the meeting. Director Cochran, would you move to adjourn?
Sir. Yes, I do.
Thank you. And Director Fredericks, a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 No roll call required. I will take that to mean we're adjourned. Thank you.